What does that mean for a company to be sustainable? I want to go back to the definition of sustainable development, which is providing for the current needs without compromising the needs of future generations. At the company level, that means operating, taking into consideration social, economic, and environmental factors. Looking a little bit deeper into what it means taking into consideration these factors, it's really both looking at how the company affects these factors, but also how some of these factors, from an externality perspective, do affect the company and the company's long-term performance. Finally, I want to talk about ESG, environmental, social, and governance. We use the two terms, sustainability and ESG interchangeably. ESG is really the corporate framework to really measure and communicate on these factors.
A sustainable financial system is a system that creates, values, and transacts financial assets so that it can cover the long-term needs of an inclusive and environmentally sustainable economy. At the moment, there is a lot of emphasis on the green aspect of finance with two components that we hear about. One is about financing green, which means orienting or reorienting capital towards sustainable linked projects or green projects to support the transition that we need. The second component is about greening finance, which has a bigger impact because we are looking to shift the paradigm in making the agenda of the financial industry greener, more responsible, and more sustainable. And beyond the green aspect, it's also about the soundness and the stability of the financial system. We have been through a number of financial crises in the recent decades, and ESG and climate in particular are posing new risks that the system needs to understand, mitigate, and withstand. Why? Because we absolutely want to avoid a contagion into the real economy coming from the financial industry. And so the financial industry is changing because change is required. Change is required in the way we live, in the way business operate, in the way economy function. And beneath all of that, it's the financial system. It's the engine, and that engine needs to take on the role that it can play in, supporting the transition.
So the main driver to implement an ESG strategy, I would name three, and I'll let Fong pick up on another one. Certainly, there are a lot of people that are just focusing on doing the right thing. You would want more of these, but that's one category. The other driver is regulation. So, regulation that already exists or is being currently developed. So that's the second driver. But more importantly, I think what we're seeing now is people that see the value, people that understand that stakeholders are demanding that information, are demanding that strategy to be implemented, and recognize that, it's going to give them a lot of benefits, and there's more opportunities in embracing and developing an ESG strategy than, there is constraints.
So in addition to the drivers that Jerome just mentioned, I would add two more. One is around risk management, and the other one is around finance and capital. So risk management. Sustainability is an incredible topic. It brings along opportunities, but also a number of risks that business must be understanding, interpreting within their circumstances, and be able to mitigate those risks. We often hear about reputational risk. If you're not doing anything, if you're not addressing a number of topics from a social perspective, for instance, your reputation, your brand could be at risk. We also hear a lot about operational risk from a climate change perspective, for instance, when we consider physical risk and the hazards that it brings and where the assets of a business could be located and could be exposed to those risks. In terms of finance, so the financial industry is now considering those factors when they are about to make investment decisions or financing decisions. So businesses need to be aware of that. They need to consider the criteria that banks or insurers or asset managers will work around in the future before they decide on an investment or a loan or a financing instrument. And so businesses need to understand what it means for them, what they need to do now in order to keep their financing going on in the future.
So I think between what Fong said and what I explained before in terms of drivers, certainly what we see here in the US is a lot of people developing a greater understanding for the value behind ESG. And that value is around talent, clients, and capital attraction.
There is a lot happening at the moment within the regulatory landscape. Businesses must be able to anticipate what is going to happen and identify the regulation that will be applicable to them and anticipate, therefore, the work that they need to get ready and achieve compliance when time comes. Obviously, a lot of firms are operating internationally across different jurisdictions, and it might be a challenge to understand and anticipate what is happening on one side of the world and in another side. We are seeing a lot of conversions. There is a lot of work going on at the international level in order to make things less divergent and more consistent and coherent across. But that will take time. And in the meantime, companies are put in front of the challenge of addressing requirements on a local, domestic, or jurisdictional level. That is a challenge, and they need a framework, they need an infrastructure to be able to do that. There is an expectation that companies are vocal on the topic of ESG. They cannot actually remain silent at all. Expectations are coming from their employees, from the inside, from their customers, the outside, and from the regulators in jurisdictions where sustainability disclosure and reporting is now mandated. It has been done on a voluntary basis by many companies already that have been leading the way, but many are following because they have to stay up to their game and have to remain in the same kind of level of disclosure and transparency as their peers.